Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. So if I have to become MLOps engineer in 2025, this is the roadmap that I'm going to follow. So this roadmap has 10 steps and within each step, there are sub steps which explains you what you need to learn to become MLOps engineer. This is actually a mind map I have curated considering beginners. So if you are a beginner, you can absolutely follow this roadmap and become master in MLOps. You can also target MLOps position maybe by the end of this year. Towards the end of this video or in the description, I will share the link to this mind map. At any point of time in future, you can get to this mind map and you can learn things in the same order. Perfect. Let's get started. First thing first, to become MLOps engineer, you need to learn machine learning lifecycle. It's not that you have to be ML engineer to become MLOps engineer, but you should understand what are various stages that are involved in machine learning lifecycle. Just like to be a good DevOps engineer, you don't have to be a developer, but you need to understand software development lifecycle. Why? Only if you understand various stages that are involved in software development lifecycle, you will understand what are the operations effort involved at every stage of software development lifecycle. That is, what are the manual things or challenges as part of maybe development, as part of building, as part of deployment, as part of monitoring. And as a DevOps engineer, you will introduce either a tool or a script to reduce these manual effort significantly or to reduce the operations significantly. Only then you will be called as a good DevOps engineer. Similarly, to be called as a good MLOps engineer, you should understand what is problem definition stage, what happens at data collection stage or loading of data, what happens at exploratory data analysis, feature engineering and selection, what happens at model training stage, how a model is exactly trained, what are the operations effort in training the model, how to evaluate efficiency of the model, how to deploy the model and how to serve the model to the external world, how to monitor the model and retrain the model. Because as new data keeps adding, efficiency of the model comes down. So you should understand each and every stage of machine learning lifecycle, and you should learn what are the tools, what script or packages within a scripting language you can use to reduce this operations effort. If it takes 1 week to understand machine learning lifecycle, it's totally fine. Spend that 1 week before getting to next stages of MLOps engineer or learning MLOps. So the second stage is fundamentals of MLOps. Now this is where you will not learn about machine learning stages, but you will start learning Python. You will start learning Linux, Git and GitHub, cloud fundamentals, and networking. So before you start your journey into machine learning lifecycle or MLOps, you should understand these fundamentals because they are going to play a very critical role as you start learning different tools and different programming or scripting that is involved. But Abhishek, what do I need to learn in Python? Python is an ocean, no doubt. Python is used in web development. Python is used in scripting for DevOps engineers. Python is used in ML, AI, especially for machine learning. These are the packages that you need to learn. This is not the specific order, but these are the 10 important packages that you need to learn. First one is NumPy. NumPy is very important because it is used in numerical computing. As MLOps engineer, when you are dealing with numerical computing, you need to know how NumPy is used. Of course, ML engineers, they use NumPy, but to understand the flow of the application or to understand the flow of the model, you need to know how NumPy exactly works. You need to know pandas because pandas is used for data manipulation. You need to know the most popular framework when it comes to machine learning, that is scikit-learn. So it's a core ML library. In fact, every ML engineer, or if you're dealing with anything in the space of ML, you should know scikit-learn. ML flow, we talked about ML flow sometime in the past. I'm yet to make a zero to hero video on ML flow, but you need to know the Python package for ML flow that is used for experiment tracking and also for model registry. DVC for data and model versioning. Fast API, end of the day, you have to deploy your model. Your model has to be served to your clients or customers. Very popular Python framework or very popular Python package that is used is Fast API. You can also use Flask, you can also use Django, but Fast API is very robust when compared to those frameworks. Optuna, XGBoost. I mean, if I have to pick up one between them, I would go for XGBoost. So XGBoost is used for hyperparameter tuning. It can also be used for training. Then PyYAML. If you just take an example, let's say you're working with Kubeflow. So Kubeflow is a very popular platform for MLOps. And when you're working on model training or when you're building a pipeline, let's say you're building an orchestrator, just like CI/CD for DevOps, you're building a pipeline for your machine learning model. End of the day, they are deployed to Kubernetes. So you have to compile your Python program to a YAML file. So you will be dealing with YAML files even as MLOps engineer. And if you want to manipulate the YAML file, or if you want to extract the details from the YAML file, the Python library that is used is PyYAML. You will be expected to write the test for the script that you are writing, or at least read and understand the coverage for the tests. So for that, you need to know PyTest. Finally, JobLib. JobLib is used for model serialization. Of course, there are other Python obvious packages like OS package, request package. These are fundamentals that I have skipped. The Python packages that I've covered here are very specific to MLOps. Take a note of these packages, because as I told you, Python is an ocean. Every time people get confused, what exactly I need to learn in Python. Then Linux, whether it's a software application, whether it's a model, when you're planning to deploy it in production, you will be dealing with Linux environment. Especially as MLOps engineer, you will be dealing with deployment. So you need to have knowledge of Linux. Git and GitHub for maintaining the versions of the Python script that your machine learning engineers, they might be writing or creating a branching strategy for them or creating webhooks for them, everything within your Git or GitHub. Cloud fundamentals. These days, nobody wants to deploy their applications or models on premises unless they are extremely secure. So you need to know the fundamentals of cloud. You need to know at least one of these cloud platforms, AWS, Azure, or GCP. Finally, networking for obvious reasons, right? Whenever you are dealing with the deployment, you need to deal with latency. You need to understand why your request has failed if something goes wrong. For that, you need to understand the basics of networking. Once you are done with the fundamentals, then we will cover each and every stage as part of this roadmap. As I told you, within machine learning lifecycle, there are various stages. And within each stage, you either have to integrate a tool or maybe you have to write a Python script. Experiment tracking is one of the important pieces of machine learning lifecycle. And for this, the best tool out there is ML Flow. So you need to learn how exactly ML Flow works. I promised to do a video on ML Flow. I recently did a video end-to-end on Kubeflow. The next one that I'm going to do will be on ML Flow. Weights and biases. is other thing that you need to learn. Then for data or model versioning, end of the day, you will be dealing with huge amount of data. And once you have your model ready, you also have to deal with versioning of the model. Just like how you version your software application, you also have to maintain multiple versions of the model. So for that, you need you need to understand DVC. The other option is also LakeFS. But I would recommend DVC. It is very widely used and it is very popular. Then for orchestration and pipelines, this is exactly like CI/CD, just like how you have CI/CD for software applications, how you build pipelines. In the same way, you can also build pipelines for your machine learning models to automate various stages or to run various stages and verify the efficiency of the model every time a new feature is added. Either you can go with Kubeflow pipelines. That is what we learned in one of our previous videos. So you need to understand Kubeflow pipelines and you need to know how to use the DSL, that is domain specific language. Once machine learning engineers, they have their Python script ready or Python program ready, you need to add DSL components, you need to add DSL pipeline, and you need to compile this Python program to YAML. For that, you need to know Kubeflow pipelines and how the DSL works. Kubeflow pipelines internally use Argo workflows. So it is good if you at least understand what is Argo workflow and how Argo workflow exactly works. Because if there is some issue with the pipelines, you have to get to the Argo workflow controller. You need to look at the logs of the Argo workflow controller. You need to understand the config map of Argo workflow controller and everything related to it. So it's a good practice if you know how exactly Argo workflow works. The alternative to Kubeflow pipeline is Airflow. However, this is my recommendation, Kubeflow pipeline. Okay, you are done with versioning of model, experimental tracking, model training, orchestration of the model. End of the day, you have to serve the model. You have to deploy the model to production. For that, you need to know how to containerize the models, right? Models are also shipped as containers because they are lightweight, easy for packaging, and very easy to ship. So for that, you need to know Docker. Fast API, as I told you, Fast API is very robust when compared to uh, Flask or Django, and it is very wisely used in the world of machine learning and AI. Then you need, to serve this model, you have to put this model somewhere. You either have to put it in Kubernetes, and the easy option to do it is by using Kserve. Sorry, this is not Kserver, this is Kserve. So you need Kserve, or you can also use TensorFlow serving. You can go with any one of these options. You can also use traditional CI/CD pipelines. If you don't want to use Kubeflow, Kubeflow is used for extreme complicated models where there are multiple stages that are involved and you need a solution that is very related to your models. However, you can also use GitHub Actions and GitLab CI. I have shown in one of the video where we have done a machine learning project, specifically MLOps project. I have shown you how to use GitHub Actions and how to automate various stages of machine learning workflow. So you can also check that video. I'll put that video link in the description. Finally, the platforms, you know, these models have to be on a platform. Most popular one that is used is Kubernetes, because within Kubernetes, you can scale your model, you can reuse the model, you can put the model in a high available model very easily. Otherwise, you need to understand how virtual machines work, how to scale the virtual machines, how to implement high availability for the virtual machines, which is not that easy when compared to Kubernetes. So if you know Kubernetes, it's a very significant advantage. Infrastructure as code, you need to spin up infrastructure for this entire thing. whether you have to use Kubeflow, if you want to use MLflow, if you want to use virtual machines, if you want to use Kubernetes, Git, end of the day, you need infrastructure. And the popular infrastructure as code tool out there is Terraform. And I would recommend Terraform. But in case you don't want to use Terraform, the other options are Pulumi and Crossplane. Every company wants to know how their application is performing, or every company wants to know how their model is performing. For that, as MLOps engineer, you have to set up observability and monitoring. If you consider it as two pieces, for monitoring, you can go for Prometheus and integrate Prometheus with Grafana dashboards, or also you can go for Fiddler. For logs, you can go for ELK stack or a complete open source alternative, that is OpenSearch. So these are the things that you need to know to become MLOps engineer. And in fact, this is a very, very comprehensive MLOps mind map. So if you learn these things, you can master MLOps and you can become MLOps engineer in 2025. Even I have learned MLOps by following the same steps. So I thought I will share these details with you. As promised, I will put this mind map link in the description. It is free. You can just open the link. You can explore the mind map and follow the same steps. I hope you found this video insightful. Please share this video with every MLOps enthusiast that you know. See you all in the next video. Take care. Bye bye, everyone.